In a prison-recorded phone call obtained by TMZ, Joe lays out what if he's to pass away, saying his entire estate is going to Seth Posey, who he met over the internet and to whom he's currently engaged. If Seth dies, it all goes to the guy's son, Cameron. Joe makes a point to say he doesn't want anybody else getting their grubby paws on any of his assets or valuables, including Jeff Lowe, his family members, or anyone else. Previously, he'd nixed his ex-husband, Dylan Passage. So, at this point, it's all going to Seth. He also mentions a DNR order he's put in his will in the off chance that he goes into cardiac arrest or anything that might require life-saving measures. JE sounds frustrated with the fact that he's been in prison for this long and says he's done. Joe further tells TMZ, "I am sick of people standing in line waiting to collect my stuff, which is why he's taking this preemptive measure." Rather than leave things for what he considers vultures, who he says are standing by to collect, Joe wants this cut and dried. On top of this, the Tiger King has very specific funeral plans. Listen for yourself. As we first told you, Joe and Seth reunited in June after first meeting in 2021, when Seth won Joe's online Bachelor King competition to be Joe's new boyfriend. They ultimately grew apart, and then Joe was planning to marry his fellow inmate, John Graham, but when Graham got out of prison, Joe ended up getting back with Seth. Yeah, Joe's got a crazy love life. Anyways, 59-year-old Joe's still got around 20 years left on his prison sentence for his murder-for-hire conviction, and he tells us he believes the feds hope he dies in prison, so they don't have to admit they were wrong. Naturally, it wouldn't be a Joe Exotic story without a shot at his nemesis, Carol Baskin. Joe tells us Carol, Jeff Lowe, and James Garretson can all go to hell.
Train derailment causes massive fire in East Palestine, Ohio. 24 hours after the train derailment, the fire continues to burn. KDKA was kept about half a mile away from the scene in East Palestine, Ohio. At this time, first responders are staying back, as hazardous materials release from the wreckage. Officials want people to know air quality remains safe. There still aren't any reports of injuries. All the community can do is wait and let the experts do their job. This is the beginning of a long process, said Michael Graham, National Transportation and Safety Board member. A federal investigation is officially underway into what caused a train derail near the Ohio-Pennsylvania border on Friday evening. The NTSB arrived Saturday afternoon to the village of East Palestine, with Graham acting as a spokesperson. Our team methodically and systematically reviews all evidence and considers all potential factors to determine the probable cause and make any necessary safety recommendations, Graham added. The NTSB says the train was made up of 141 load cars, 9 empties and 3 locomotives. 50 of them derailed, with 20 containing hazardous materials. It started a massive fire with orange flames lighting up the sky. First responders from more than 60 emergency agencies from 3 states quickly mobilized. 4 tank cars in the derailment were carrying a chemical called vinyl chloride. The NTSB says at least one is slowly releasing it in the air, and that means it's doing its job. Ohio and Pennsylvania environmental protection crews along with those from the train company continue to monitor air quality. Mayor Trent Conaway says they just need to let the fire burn. We have to let the professionals take care of this. We are by no means experts. They are, he said. Officials are still identifying other chemicals in the cars, using drones and other technology in the process. At this time, local leaders are saying to stay back. You're putting yourself and us in danger. Let us handle the situation. "All we want is the safety of the citizens and residents," said Chief Keith Drawbeck of the East Palestine Fire Department. The NTSB will be the leading agency for the investigation, and they're opening up their own assistance center to help the community and those impacted by the derailment. The company says they will continue to support the effort of the Red Cross and are making a $25,000 donation.
Israelis rally for fifth week against Netanyahu's judicial plans. Tens of thousands of Israelis have gathered for a fifth week of protests against controversial judicial changes proposed by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government. Protesters in the central city of Tel Aviv braved heavy rain for Saturday's protest, carrying blue and white Israeli flags and chanting slogans against Netanyahu's justice minister. "I'm here tonight protesting against the transition of Israel from a democracy to an autocracy," Dov Levenglick, a 48-year-old software engineer, told the Reuters news agency in Tel Aviv. "It's a disgrace, it shall not stand." The proposed changes, which the government says are needed to curb overreach by judges, have drawn fierce opposition from groups including lawyers and raised concerns among business leaders, widening already deep political divisions in Israeli society. Critics say Israeli democracy would be undermined if the government succeeds in pushing through the plans, which would tighten political control over judicial appointments and limit the Supreme Court's powers to overturn government decisions or Knesset laws. "They want to tear up the judiciary system of Israel, they want to tear up Israeli democracy, and we are here every week in every weather to fight against it and to fight for Israeli democracy," Hadar Siegel, 35, told Reuters in Tel Aviv. Local media reported protests in some 20 cities across the country. Among the crowd in Haifa was former Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid, who said in a video posted to social media, "We will save our country because we are unwilling to live in an undemocratic country." Netanyahu, on trial for corruption, has dismissed the protests as a refusal by leftist opponents to accept the results of last November's election, which produced one of the most right-wing governments in Israel's history. Last month, he was forced to remove a top minister, Aryeh Deri, who leads the ultra-Orthodox Shas party, due to a recent tax evasion conviction. In addition to the judicial changes, his government has announced its intention to expand illegal settlements in the occupied West Bank, as well as social reforms that have worried the LGBTQ community. Dania Schwartz, 44, from the city of Ramat Gan, told AFP news agency that protesters were reclaiming the Israeli flag. She expressed concern that, as a member of the LGBTQ community, this new government will try to pass laws that will affect my children. "For example, the Noam Party wants to delegitimize families like ours, and it's very scary," she said, referring to one of Netanyahu's coalition partners known for its virulently anti-gay stance.
Pope Mass in South Sudan. Pontiff urges people to reject venom of hatred. Pope Francis has ended his peace pilgrimage to South Sudan by celebrating an open-air mass attended by tens of thousands in Juba. He urged the congregation to reject what he called the venom of hatred, and told them to lose no opportunity to build peace. And he pleaded with the country's leaders to focus on ending conflict. Before leaving, he told the crowd, "Dear brothers and sisters, I return to Rome with you even closer to my heart." Excited Catholics, some who camped overnight for the Mass, told Reuters it was a joyful moment. "To this moment I do not sleep, I was very excited," Jovan Abayam said. "We are really very happy with the coming of Pope because he will give us the message of peace. We can unite as South Sudanese people," Juwajbol Ayul said. The Mass, which took place at the John Garang Mausoleum in front of an audience of 70,000 according to estimates, was filled with cheerful worshippers waving flags and deep in prayer. The religious ceremony fell on the last day of the Pope's visit to South Sudan, which was his first to the country. Since it got independence in 2011, the country has been racked by civil war after the president fell out with his then vice president in 2013. At least 20 people were killed in a cattle raid on the eve of the religious leader's visit. He also told them that they cannot remain neutral against injustice. If we want to be pastors who intercede, we cannot remain neutral before the pain caused by acts of injustice and violence. To violate the fundamental rights of any woman or man is an offense against Christ. The Pope had a similar message of peace and reconciliation when he visited the Democratic Republic of Congo earlier this week.